So the All Blacks will be taking on the Irish in Chicago for this weekend's round of the November Internationals. These two sides have been extremely competitive as of late, and I feel like this game is going to be absolutely no different. Both want to get that win under the belt and start their November off on the right track. But in this preview, we'll be looking through at the lineups. We'll have a bit of a comparison to what we saw the last time these two sides played in Chicago, as there are a few familiar faces from that last meeting as well. We'll be looking through at the key players, few stats along the way, and then also a prediction at the end who I think will win this contest. But jumping straight into it, we will start with that New Zealand lineup. Not a lot of changes from Scott Robertson compared to what we saw throughout the Rugby Championship. So obviously finding that foundation and also feeling like this is the strongest lineup that they can possibly play. In the front row, Ethan Group starts at number 1, Cody Taylor as the 2, and number 3, Fletcher Null. Now, Cody Taylor back in 2016 made his way off of the bench for New Zealand in this contest, and he is one of a few familiar faces from this current All Black side, including this next man, the captain, Scott Barrett. He was off the bench back in 2016. Fabian Holland as the number 5. He's one of the young, talented players in this New Zealand side, looking great for a Breakthrough Player of the Year nomination, and he just seems to be able to keep composure in that All Blacks line-out. They've gone with a very similar type 5, with the exception of Fletcher Null coming in rather than Tyrell Lomax. Overall, a very strong start to this All Blacks lineup. In the loose forward trio, this is where we see Simon Parker start at number 6, number 7, Ardie Savia, and then number 8. They have gone with Peter Lakai. It was that question of whether Lakai or Satiti would be the starting 8 option for New Zealand. And for this game, it will be Satiti making his way off of the bench and Peter Lakai now getting that start. Now, back in 2016 in Chicago, we actually saw Ardie Savia, a young Ardie Savia that is, making his way off the bench. Now, in the last 5 years or so, you would struggle not to see Savia in a starting lineup for New Zealand, so that just tells you how far he has come and how much of a mainstay he is now. And this All Black side of the backline, it is Cam Roigard alongside Beauden Barrett as that number 10. Now, Beauden Barrett was the only All Black to be starting in that contest up against Ireland. Almost a decade ago, he was in that number 10 jersey, although in the number 9 jersey, it was Aaron Smith, rather than, in this case, Cam Roigard out on the left wing. This is where we do see Caleb Clark. In the midfield, Geordie Barrett at 12, alongside Quintal Pyer in their number 13 jersey. Geordie Barrett actually getting himself yellow carded up against the Irish last year when these two sides went head-to-head. Number 14, Leroy Carter, and then number 15, it is Will Jordan. So that is the starting side for New Zealand. Leicester Whainarnuku, notable name off the bench for this contest, alongside Damian McKenzie as one of the back replacements. He's been a real super sub for New Zealand, and this game will be no different. Looking through at Ireland's starting side, it is a very strong looking team. Although I have noticed from looking at social media, there seems to be a bit of a split at the moment. Some are very happy with this side, and there are quite a few who are mentioning players that they felt should have been selected in this team. Now, all I will say is if there are guys who aren't selected in this 23, that does mean that the Irish depth at the moment is looking very strong. I know that Gavin Coombs, his name was thrown around a little bit, as well as someone like a Tom Farrell in that back line, but for now, still a very strong Irish side. In the front row, it is Andrew Porter, Dan Sheehan, and he will be the captain yet again for Ireland, and number 3, Tyke Furlong. Now, Furlong did start back in 2016, so he's had a long stay in that tight head prop role. Sadly, we don't get to see Cian Healy this year for the Irish, as he was actually playing back in that Chicago game as well. But of the other props, Finlay Bealham actually off of the bench in that last contest as well. Looking through at the locks, it is James Ryan alongside Tyke Byrne. Very dangerous duo. And I do feel like New Zealand have to find a way of shutting down Tyke Byrne. He's just such a dynamic ball runner, as well as that work in the breakdown, the lineouts. He's an all-round player and certainly one to keep an eye out for. And in this contest, number 6, this is where we do see Ryan Baird. Number 7, Josh Van den Flair, and then number 8, it is Jack Conan. So they have opted to go with Caelan Doris off of the bench rather than in the starting side. Van der Flair, he did make his way off of the bench the last time these two sides played in the USA. In the back line, it will be 9, Jamison Gibson Park, and number 10, Jack Crowley. Great to see Gibson Park back from his injury that left him out of internationals for a bit of time. Jack Crowley in the number 10 jersey. I've seen quite a few people happy with that selection. He's got pretty good game management in that number 10 jersey. He did prove that in the game up against Leinster, so we'll see how he goes now teaming with a lot of those guys. Number 11, this is where we do see James Lowe. Got a very strong boot with the left. Also, plenty of physicality, so him versus Leroy Carter should be a very entertaining one. Stuart McCluskey in the midfield alongside Gary Ringrose, who also made his way off of the bench back in the day. So it is interesting to see how many of these guys, when they were just starting out their careers, now they are considered the veterans and the experienced players of their sides. It's kind of like a full circle moment for a lot of these players. Tommy O'Brien, he is out on the right wing, and then Jamie Osborne slotting in as number 15, close out the Irish starting side. I will mention some notable names off of the bench. They have got Sam Prendergast there as 22 with Bundy Aki slotting in at 23, so quite a bit of skill in that department. Doris also there, Ian Henderson and Daviaton and Paddy McCarthy as that loose head prop for this Irish side. But those are the starting lineups, ladies and gents. Now moving on to the key players. I do think for New Zealand, someone who's been in some terrific form as of late is Quinn Tupaia. Now, I know that he hasn't played a huge amount of minutes for New Zealand throughout 2025, but he was the man of the match in the last contest up against Australia. Really proved that he should be somewhere in the starting side. Now, not many would have predicted that he would be a 13 by the end of the season, but it does seem like that's the way that it's going to be working out. Geordie Barrett, who have a lot of inside knowledge about some of these Leinster players, so Quinn Tupaia on his outside could be a very dangerous area on the field for the Kiwis here. Also, Ardie Savia, he is always one to keep an eye out for. He loves playing up against Ireland. He loves playing international rugby in general, but he is the type of player that could get that one big steal going head-to-head with Josh van der Flair in this game, so it's going to be so important to stop that man from getting the turnovers for the Irish as well. And then I think the third player to keep an eye out for New Zealand has to be Cam Roigard. He has had a few injuries to deal with, but when he is back, he is one of the best in that 9 jersey. He's going head-to-head with Jamison Gibson Park in this contest, and one thing that this Irish side are known for is their intense ruck speed. One of the quickest around, if not the quickest in international rugby. They love to get that ball out, show exactly what their backline can do, which is also one of the best around when it comes to crispness. It sounds like I'm trying to say Christmas. Crispness of the passing. What was I saying? Gibson Park, crispness of his passing is always very entertaining to watch, and I don't think this game will be any different. Also in this Irish side, in terms of players to keep an eye out for, I think it's got to be Dan Sheehan, the young skipper in that number 2 jersey. He absolutely loves a rolling maul, but not just that, he's very good at finding a way of scoring down the wide areas of the field. He's got pace, he's got power, and he's got a great Irish fullback alongside him for this game. And then the last player I feel needs a strong game here for Ireland, it has to be James Lowe. His boot is going to be so crucial throughout this game. There are not too many times in recent history that the All Blacks have been able to say that they've won the territory battle. And with someone like James Lowe booting it downfield, I'd assume Geordie Barrett will fire a couple back at him, but if they can force New Zealand into their own half, make it a little bit scrappy, and then create that opportunity for a turnover, turn it into either 3 or 7 points, could be the key to success for the Irish in this game. But speaking of success and victories between these two sides, we will look at the previous head-to-heads. The last time these two sides played was actually in November last year. It was 23 points to 13 in favour of New Zealand. The time before that, it was for that Rugby World Cup quarter-final, 28 points to 24 in favour of the Kiwis. But then the match before that was actually the last of the New Zealand tour for the Irish. They were able to win it 32 points to 22, and also won the game prior to that, 23 points to 12. So both of these sides, the trend is they'll have a relatively close game. And the last time that these two sides played off, there were only 2 tries that was scored. That was Will Jordan and also Josh van der Flair. So one apiece. That game, like I mentioned, we did see Geordie Barrett get himself yellow carded, but with the exception of that, it was pretty much just 3-pointers taken throughout the game. Now, Damian McKenzie was in charge of the kicking for New Zealand. He was actually the starting 10 in that contest, whereas last time that these two sides did play off, it was actually that combo of Jamison Gibson Park as well as Jack Crowley. Couple other changes in their backline. No Hugo Keenan, Mac Hansen, and of course Bundy Aki making his way off the bench for this game instead. But I do feel like this game, because it is the first of the November internationals for both sides, that does make it seem like it's going to be a little bit closer. Both sides won't want to make that crucial mistake here because, of course, a lot of world rankings points on the line for this game. So you don't want to be making those errors that could cost you the match. But now we move on to the score prediction, and this is such a tough one to be able to predict because both of these sides are at very different stages for their international season. For New Zealand, this is one of their last few matches that they are going to be playing for the year, whereas for Ireland, they've got these matches and then the Six Nations in February, so they are pretty much starting their international window. They had 2 great wins in July up against Georgia as well as Portugal, who they did beat 106 points to 7. That is still quite an unbelievable scoreline, but we have at least been seeing these players in the URC, just in some cases not on the same side. So for that reason, and because of the fact that New Zealand have been playing a lot more together recently, I am going to say that they will pull off the win, and I'm going to go 28 points to 23 in favour of New Zealand. I think it can be close, and I'd hope that it will be, because when these two sides go head-to-head and it gets intense in those final 10 minutes or so, we all know it will be an absolutely great way to start November for these sides. But thank you all very much for tuning in. If you did enjoy, of course, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. This game kicking off at 9 a.m. New Zealand time on Sunday morning. We are going to be doing the live commentary on the channel, so of course be sure to check that out as well. Also, let me know who you think will win this game and your score predictions in the comments down below. Thank you all very much for tuning in, and I will see you all for the next one.